I didn't expect to be sitting here to be speaking with Jürgen Klopp in a lockdown, but
So 3-1 down at boys. This is the day where we create a story which we can tell our grandchildren.
I really appreciate your time. But yeah, just a brief background on my story. Originally, I'm from Albania. I've lived in Germany, in Kaiserslautern. I used to speak German, but I can't speak a word now. Sometimes when I look at videos when I'm younger and I'm thinking I'm speaking German, it's pretty strange. But yeah, so I lived in Germany for 4 years. And then from there, I moved to the UK, to London, East London, which is it's an interesting place. It definitely helps you to build character, for sure. And from there, you know, I played football locally, played football in academies till the age of about 16. And then from there, I got released, which was a critical time in my life personally. And then I thought, you know, there's something more that I just want to be part of football. So I thought, you know, let me get into coaching from a young age. I started coaching at the age of 24. I had a period of from 16 to about 20. I stopped playing football completely. Again, when I was 16, I was devastated that I didn't get a youth contract. And again, yeah, growing up in East London, there's a lot of temptation, being around the wrong crowd, things like that, you know, family dysfunction. And, you know, at that age, it's critical for a young man to have, you know, a functional family. But nonetheless, you know, I went through a trial and tribulation. I started, again, like I said, I started hanging around with the wrong crowd, to the point where I was in hospital. I got stabbed, and, you know, that was my moment. That was my critical moment where I was thinking, you know, I need to get back into football, because I completely stopped watching football. I didn't want anything to do with it. When the football was on the TV, I said, I don't want to watch football. And that was the moment when I said, you know what, I need to get back into football. And literally, I was out of shape. I was not fit. And yeah, I got to the basics, started running, started doing things like that, went into the non-league football. And then I got into a certain level. I played full-time football in Cyprus. And then eventually, my ambition as a player didn't really match my ability. So I thought, you know what, let me get into coaching. So I started coaching locally, started to set up my own academy. And then from there, it got the attention of Arsenal community. So I started doing some community work with Arsenal. And then eventually, I ended up going to different countries like Italy, Bahrain. And now currently I'm in Oman, in Muscat. And I'm coaching with Juventus Academy at the moment. So
wow,
yeah, that's long story short.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
Well, that's quite yeah, you had intense time, I would say. That looks like that's a story for a whole life. Yeah, so yeah. All different things, but oh, interesting, absolutely interesting. So
yeah, in terms of like,
you are in charge in a moment. You are head of an academy in, I didn't understand where was it? In
Oman. It's in Muscat. It's in the Middle East. Next to the
okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, with Juventus Academy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so,
they are everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. So, but no, it's been a good experience, you know, being abroad, thinking differently, being around different cultures and things like that. So it's definitely been an eye-opener. I'm sure, you know, like yourself, you've moved to England. It's been something different to Germany, slightly different. But
it is, but not as much as maybe your cultural differences. But yeah, it is different. But it's all good.
Jürgen, what was your journey like then? Not the recent journey, but the coaching journey from an early age.
I started coaching actually when I was 20 years old. So after school, after my A-levels, I made a move to Eintracht Frankfurt, the first league team in Germany, but was for the second team, for the U23s. I studied sports science and wanted to be my whole entire life, actually. I wanted to be a coach. I was never happy with my football skills, but I loved the game so much that I thought I want to be kind of part of it. So then my playing career kind of developed a little bit from second team Frankfurt. I went with 2 other clubs in between to Mainz. But in my first 2 years, I coached still Eintracht, the youth team at Eintracht Frankfurt. And I enjoyed it a lot. Studied sports science same time. Played then semi-professional football and professional football. Stopped coaching. And when I did my batches during my career, not all, so not the FIFA license, but all the others. And then, overnight, when I was 33, the club sacked the manager and asked me if I can take over. And I didn't think a second really about it. I thought, okay, finally, somebody had the same idea as I had all the time. And that first stops me playing and starts my coaching career. So was lucky, of course, and I did it. And from that moment on, I never stopped. So it's long ago, meanwhile, pretty much 20 years ago. Yeah, but inside, I wanted to be a coach, but I couldn't tell really a lot of people because I was a player. And as a player, the last thing what you do is to go to your coach and tell him, by the way, I think you do this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. and I respect the rules of the game too much that I would have ever done this. I never spoke to a coach or a manager and told him that I think he should do something different. I just accepted it, but I made my own. I had my own thoughts about it, and thought maybe if I'm in charge at any day in the future, I probably will do it different or exactly like he did. So how a player career is, that's it.
Brilliant. So Gerald, the floor is yours in terms of questions, because I'm still not sure where Taff is, but the floor is yours in terms of question to Jürgen. Yeah.
Perfect. So something that, but going back to, I read your book, which like your history and things like that, it's something that gravitated towards me, towards you, should I say, is like your demeanor and your style as a coach in terms of your looks, your dress code, things like that. And someone like me, coming as a refugee to England, appearance and things like that is something that I've always, been kind of cautious about, or been a bit, how can I explain? I've been quite critical of myself to make sure, I'm well dressed and things like that. But in terms of you, like when I look at you, I don't see a traditional coach in terms of suit. I don't think I've ever seen you in a suit personally. So, things like that. It's like, for me, how or why did you kind of go against that traditional look of a coach?
Well, that's interesting. So, but I can read between the lines that I look like a tramp on the sideline. Yeah. But it's all good. I take that. So, but it's not a problem. To be honest, I never thought about it. Never is not right. For me, I was a player, and the next day I was a coach. That was my life. So I didn't even think about what I could wear. So that's one thing. There was in my locker room was the tracksuit of the guy before who had the job 2 days before. So I took this one. So just took it and wore it. Didn't even fit me. I didn't think a second about it. I always was just focused on the game. I never thought about how do I look. I know it's not too cool because we are working in public. But then when I came to Dortmund, I thought maybe now I have to change. So I tried for a while wearing jeans and a shirt, something like that. Yeah. But I just didn't feel comfortable. And I realized, I think the day before the game, what will I wear tomorrow? And I'm not smart enough to have these kind of different thoughts in my mind. I can be focused on football or something else in that moment. I have no space. But that doesn't mean it's bad for you, what you are doing or what other coaches are doing. I think, for example, the best dressed manager is Pep Guardiola. To 100%. Everything what he wears looks just like, exactly, that's right for him. And he doesn't wear a suit, he just wears casual stuff. The thing is, it's a little bit inside you and what you told me now, that you as a kid came to England as a refugee, stuff like this. I don't know the English word for it, but maybe you what is deep in yourself is a little bit of lack of confidence. You think you have to convince people with the way you look. That's, by the way, something my father told me always when I left for school in the morning. He always said, you want to go like this to school? What will the teacher think? And I told him that time, I'm not interested what he thinks about my gear. If he's not interested in me as a person, I'm not interested in him. It was pretty, not sure if the right way to say, but as a kid, it was like this. So I don't want to look awkward. I just don't care in these moments. If I go to a wedding or whatever, I wear what I have to wear. In this moment, I can decide it. That means I don't decide it. Somebody gives me the stuff and I wear it. For you now, be yourself as a coach anyway. It's the most important thing that you really be yourself. Football is it's a cloud thing. You could be the best coach in the world and you have the worst team. Not a real chance. You can be not such a good coach, but have the best team. Can work for a while, but not really. You have to make sure for yourself that you are just by yourself, that you just think about the things you want to think about. And if dressing is one of these things, you want to look great, then wonderful, because it's a festive day, it's a big day, so you want to wear a suit. It's completely fine. I'm just not made for this, that's all. But it's more my fault than your fault. It's really about that you just do what you think is right for you, because whichever role model you have as a coach or whatever, you can never do the same things, because your football has to be mirrored by your soul. I'm 100% convinced. All the rest will always lead to a situation where you realize, I want something different, but all the other people want to see that, so that doesn't really fit together. That's a little bit, that's the thing. So that's where the differences you can see. I like when you see the soul or the character of a coach in the team you watch. You can see, okay, this team plays, look, Pep Guardiola again. If you see a team playing, you think, wow, that's either a Pep Guardiola or somebody who worked together with him. Maybe in some moments you see teams where you think, oh, they are maybe a little bit inspired by me, but it can never be exactly the same. You have to bring your own character in. And dressing is one part of our character. So be yourself, wear what you want, but don't make it the most important thing, because just in the end, the game is all what counts. The players are what counts, so it's not too important. But don't worry, you can be world champion in a suit or in a tracksuit. That's not important. You just have to feel comfortable.
No, for sure, I agree with you, and this is why I said I gravitate to style, because I feel a bit more relaxed with things like that. Anyways, but in terms of your mentality, how did you get to that point where you said, I don't care what people think about?
Look, our childhood was completely different, obviously. I'm raised in a very small village in the Black Forest, very 1,500 people living there. I think when I was 20, I didn't meet as many people as you in a day in London. So that's how small it was there. 2 elder sisters, 5 and 7 years older. So my father was waiting for the prince, working on that actually. And when I came, from that moment on, I couldn't make a lot of things wrong. Let me say it like this. That means I was full of confidence as a kid. Whatever I did, my mother said, brilliant. My father said, sensational, until a specific moment in life. So 15, 16, maybe it was not exactly like this anymore. But so it means I got filled with confidence and love. So, and that's, I never worry. I don't doubt people. If I meet somebody, I'm completely open. If the other person is not honest or whatever, or want to harm me or whatever, I will realize later. So I have no time to think about that before. I'm first and foremost completely open, like now. So I have nothing to hide, actually. And that's the difference. And on top of that, I realized really early in life that Jesus Christ is a very important person to me. So, and I thought a lot about it. It's not that I read the Bible 5 times or things like that. I just liked the idea behind it. Maybe that's the right saying. Treat other people like you want to be treated by yourself. That was my school, my own school for myself, how I want to approach life. Maybe that makes sense. And with that, it's all clear. So I give my everything, but I don't expect that I get something for it. I want it, of course, but it's not that, I mean, I give everything, I don't get any, like my 6 finals in a row losing, it's not nice. But for me, it was okay, because for me, I could still appreciate the way to the final. Other people still do that, I know that. But for me, I was completely fine. I was not an unhappy person or depressed person after losing a final. It's just part of life. I accepted that. Much nicer to win the final, obviously, I can tell you. But it's still absolutely okay. And so means I give everything. I expect from my players to give everything, and then we will see what we get for it. That creates the mentality of the team and my mentality as well.
Jürgen, thank you. We've finally been joined by Taff, who was having some connection problems. I'm not sure why, but he's here. So I'm going to give the floor
Hello,
to
nice
Taff.
to meet you.
Hi, Jürgen. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
All right, we've only got about 12 minutes more of Jürgen's time, Taff. So if you can do a brief introduction and then fire away your first question to Jürgen as well.
So my name is Taff, Rahman, currently working as a FA coach educator. My background has been within academy coaching, and long-term ambition is to work at the professional level at the senior men's game. In terms of my question, I think it also wraps up a little bit about my journey. I've been heavily working on my leadership capabilities, which has taken me to work in the Middle East, to the Far East, to work in Guyana, in South America. And I remember one of the opportunities where we was at the Brazil National Museum, and I was looking at the players that we was managing for the Guyana national team. Considering Guyana has never been to a major competition, and my job was to paint a picture for them to vision where we're going to. And I remember saying, let's make history, not just walk through it. So that was a very powerful statement, and ultimately we managed to make it to the Gold Cup. How do you describe and communicate, land your messages to players, especially the fact that money or experiences is given to them? How do you land your messages to people with that kind of given situation already?
I don't know. Exactly. No, it's the truth. So I know, meanwhile, after knowing myself 52 years, being in the job since 20 years, stuff like this, I know, meanwhile, I trust myself that I say the right thing in the right moment when I'm together with my boys. Where do I get this confidence from? Okay, I did it a couple of times where even I was quite happy with the things I said. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. And the rest is just my whole week prepares the meeting, or the day before the game. There's only a day before, or whatever happens prepares my meeting, prepares my message. So that means, for example, which was a pretty important one and a famous one. It's not new or whatever, but it was an important moment and it worked pretty well. We played against Dortmund, we're 3-1 down at halftime. Yes, at halftime, sitting in the dressing room in the second leg of the UEFA Cup quarter final, I think. And I had before the game obviously no clue what you say, you guys, in the meeting, in the halftime meeting. So 3-1 down. I thought, boys, this is a day where we create a story which we can tell our grandchildren. If we succeed, we can tell our grandchildren. If we lose today, nobody want to talk about it. So it's just a positive thing. It's just this little turn. I forgot that I said that, but after the game, I've heard a meeting of interview of Divock Origi. And he said, the manager said in halftime, tonight we create a story we can tell our grandchildren, for example. Another thing what I said before the Barcelona game, I think, and it was not planned, not prepared, it was exactly what I thought. It's really unlikely that you go through against Barcelona when you lose the first game. So it's pretty impossible to do it, but because it's you, we have a chance. That's what I told my boys. And it was 100% what I thought. So, and why can I say that? Because I know my boys, because I see my boys. I know what they're able to do, because I saw the first game. So the preparation for this, you cannot create a proper message by searching for a message. You do that, obviously, but it has to come natural. So like creating your own history, create history instead of walking through is really a strong one. But I don't think it's like reading a book and think you can use that. That can work, but the strongest message is really which comes from yourself and which fits to the situation we are in. And that means it's prepared in the few days before or the week before the game. So I'm just not sure, but pretty sure that I will find the right words in the right moment, because the situation is like it is. The boys create the story and I have to say it.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Taff, I'm going to allow you another one.
No, thanks for sharing that. And it's interesting you mentioned about the epic game, Liverpool versus Barcelona, and the 4-0 win. I love those games. I'm a big fan of those games. But what I'm more interested in is how do you sustain a winning run or a undefeated run for 44 games? What is the secret ingredients? What kept the players going for that long? Because rising for big occasion is part of it, but how do you do that week in, week out? What's the driving force behind that?
So first and foremost, you need a really good team for that. I can tell you. You can't do that with each team. But, and then it's, and how do you get there? How do you get to 10 games in a row, or 20 games in a row? It's exactly the same like you get to 40 games in a row. So it's a little bit, you should think a little bit more positive about yourself. So it's not that difficult to keep yourself in line. Let me say it like this. So for me, it's easy. So we win a game. I'm happy about that. The next day, I don't think a second about the game, especially in a week when you play on Wednesday again and the next one on Saturday and stuff like that. Think about it. You just take good feeling. So it means that doesn't change anything for the next game. In our mind, it's like this. After losing a game, you think it's pretty, it's likely or possible for sure that you will lose the next game. When you win a game, you think, I think we can win the next one as well. And it's pretty much both. It's the same probability because you lost the last game. It's nothing to do with the next game. It's just here. So I'm always on the winning side before a game. That doesn't mean we win all the time, but I always think there's a chance to win this game. So in working on this chance, I sometimes have 2 days for it, sometimes I have 5 days for it, or 6 days, even 6 days. So, and that is the only difference. The rest is make sure that you are as good prepared as possible. Don't celebrate yourself like kids do. You won a game and yeah, and pointing with a finger on the opponent and say, yeah, you lost and stuff like this. Of course, we passed that age group. So we are not like this. It's just we expect from ourselves to win it. Then you win it, so you cannot celebrate it for the next 4 days. It's just bam, done, next game. Bam, done, next game. It's exactly the same preparation. After we spoke already about it, I don't want to mention it constantly, but it's the truth. I lost 6 finals in a row. So that doesn't mean I will not try them anymore. I will not try it again. It's not that this game is a year later most of the time. In a year you can think a lot of weird things to struggle again in the same situation, or you just accept it like it is. This is a game, so we have another one. Just prepare it in the best way you can, and you have a massive chance. And we did that 44 times, or how often I don't even know the number exactly. Yeah. We did that, but we did exactly the same before the Watford game, which we lost, obviously, because you cannot do more than give your best. And we did that all the time, and against Watford, it didn't work out. Our fault, but we are human beings, so none of us are perfect. So that's it.
Brilliant. Gerald, bring you back in now.
Brilliant. No, in terms of, I was watching Sadio Mane's documentary the other day. Brilliant documentary. And there was a moment in the documentary where I think he was after a Champions League game and he was driving back home or something like that. And he said, do you know what's special about Klopp is that he's always positive. Where again, like, where do you find that positivity when the stakes are so high and there's so much pressure? Where do you find that positivity within you?
I'm very often positive. I wouldn't say I'm always positive, but I'm very often positive. That's true. Easy. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, what would you wish for your life on a professional point of view, or even from a private point of view, if you would have told me I will be married with a wife like Ulla, I have the 2 boys we have, and I would have said, okay, done, deal, I do. If then somebody would have told me, so you will manage Mainz, Dortmund, Liverpool, you will win twice the Champions, bam, bam, all the time, then I would have said, yeah, clear, let's do it. And I still appreciate it like crazy that I'm in a situation like this, that I can work with these world-class players together. I get up in the morning and I have a smile in my face, because it's just great. It's a blessing to do what I do. And so it's not so difficult for me to stay positive. It's a general thing. Can the boys disappoint me? Not really. When something doesn't work out, I think my message wasn't clear enough. Not they are to dump to get what I told them. So that's really important stuff. So it means, why should I be unhappy with myself? I just have to improve my message. So I'm not angry with the boys. In a game sometimes when they don't run enough or stuff, then I'm angry in a moment, but not in general. So my life is too good to be not positive from my point of view. As long as I stay healthy, it's all good. So I was lucky in a few moments in my life, really, and I am still. And that means not that I always get what I want, but it means that sometimes at least I get it, and that's often enough for me. And so I'm fine with everything. So positivity is not so difficult. It's always two options. You can see it optimistic, you can see it the other way around. And I just decided for myself, as long as nobody told me you have no chance, I will try to make it happen.
Taff.
Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned that, and then this whole pandemic situation has allowed me to reflect on a lot of things. And when I think about my journey, and I remember it was Ramadan, I was doing my UEFA A license, and I went 54 sessions, and no one knew I was fasting. You have a very multicultural team. Is part of your competitive advantage that you and your staff team actively plan for the different cultures you have in your team, the likes of Salah, Tikami, Mane, or have you recruited staff that are so tolerant, so open, and are very aware of the different needs of your players? Or do you have to plan for the different cultures?
We don't really think about it before, because in a different culture, I think you have still a lot of differences. So I think I don't think that all Egypt people are like Mo Salah. So I'm not sure if there is a typical, yes, from a religion point of view, but even that is different. So you know that you have Muslims, they really live it, and you have others say they are a bit more moderate in it, I would say. So yeah. I don't judge a player and I have no clue about the culture of the culture of an Egypt player or an African player or a player from South America and stuff like this. I don't know it, but what I know is that I try to learn as much as I can about my player, where he's coming from. So it means, and of course, in a good relationship, both parties have to come to each other. So that's how it is. So it means if Mo is coming in and says, "So you all have to accept me like I am," but that doesn't really help. That doesn't help a lot, and that means that they have to be open as well, and they are. That's what we try to make sure before we sign them. Football quality is one thing, character is another very important thing, and but I believe 100% that in the first place everybody wants to be a good guy. I never met, maybe I met a few, but not a lot. I'm 52, maybe 2 or 3 where I thought, oh, maybe he wants to be like he is. All the other people want to be nice, want to be smart in the best way, want to be positive and all that stuff. But sometimes life doesn't let it happen. So, but in with footballers, it's like this. They had already, until I meet them, they had already a lot of good experiences. They have interesting stories. Sadio's story is unbelievably interesting. Where he's coming from. Mo's story is unbelievably interesting. Naby Keita's story is crazy interesting. So, but the stories of the English guys are interesting as well. Of Joel Matip is very interesting. So that's what I'm interested in. Their specific story, not the story of a whole country or whatever. That all builds our character, but it's not only one point which is influential, and all the rest, parents, sisters, friends, the village, stuff like this. So just we are open, but they have to be open as well, and then it can work really, really well.
Jürgen, just finally, as we're wrapping up, if you had the opportunity, so let's delve into your coaching brain. What advice would you give? So if you had 2 top tips for each one of the 2 guys that are on the call, what would those top tips be in terms of a coaching development pathway, or with your attitude with players?
It's nothing now what you would write in a book or something like this. It's easy to say. So there are so many coaches out there, and if you are really ambitious and want to go up to the top, wherever it will be, you have to understand the game as good as possible. The interesting fact with football is that that's why what we realize every day, that pretty much everybody thinks he's an expert. So because it's a nice game, it's a simple game. So that means that everybody's talking about why he's not shooting that ball, why he's not crossing past the ball, and all, it's that easy. It's a very simple game, but it's not that easy. So, and that's why we stop why so many people think they understand it, they stop so early to learn about football. There are a lot of things to learn about. There are a lot of things you can do, a lot of things to watch and learn from. So that means you have to learn constantly. You have to be open to learn. Then you have to, that's one thing. You have to be ready to learn. In the moment you stop learning, the game develops. The game develops constantly. When I started 20 years ago, so what, is this the same game? No, it's absolutely not the same game. It's so much more physical, so much quicker, so many things which are really different. And now that's one thing. What would I give you? Keep learning. Really try to understand it better and better and better. And the other thing is be yourself, because you have no other chance. In the moment when you try to act like somebody else, the day is not the things you have to do over the day. Then the day is too short for that, because you constantly act like somebody else. What would he do in this situation? What would he? A manager, a coach has to make decisions. Decisions have to come from yourself and not from experience how somebody else would have done it. So be yourself and learn more and more and more about the game. And I would say there's a big chance that one day we play against each other. Why not?
Jürgen, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to let the guys thank you very briefly as well. But, you know, from our point of view, particularly today when I know you're back in, I absolutely appreciate half an hour with you. Inspirational. And I'm sure that if Matt twists your arm again, we'll be able to do it again in the distant future. So
one question, which is the stronger foot of your son?
My
Does he know that?
No, but he was left-footed and worked as hard as possible on the right to the point where people do not recognize what is the strongest foot.
Wow.
He just worked and worked, and he did it. He worked hard and hard and hard. But yeah, I'll let him know that you asked.
My left foot got weaker with each day of my life. So
really?
I started with a weak left foot and ended up with a very, 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 very weak left foot.
Listen, we're going to run out of time. So Taff and Gerald, do you want to say a big thank you to Jürgen for us, please?
Yeah, Jürgen, appreciate your time immensely, and hopefully one day we will be able to come and visit you at the training ground.
Sure, he's put that one in there.